and welcome to Real Talk with Rachel. Today I'm examining women and mental health and the legacy of hysteria. The legacy of women and mental illness goes way back. Actually, it wasn't even mental illness that could get a woman institutionalized. It could be opinions that differed from the majority. It could be ambition or a demand for equal rights. A woman who did not conform to the mold of what a woman was supposed to be could find herself institutionalized. She had no rights to herself. Her father, her husband, her brother, even her sons could commit her. Women were labeled hysterical and put into institutions for being too independent. Independence was madness. Assertive women were whisked away to asylums for defying domestic control. Ambitious women were unnatural and therefore sick. It was a moral failure. They were morally insane if they acted outside the prescribed role for them. And that's not even considering legitimate mental health issues. Women who wrestled with depression or anxiety or OCD, as I do, were institutionalized alongside all those independent, assertive, ambitious women, which also described me. And there was no telling when any of them would get out of those institutions and return to their regular lives. So, showing weakness of any kind, especially brain disorders, has a certain fear of stigmatization, especially for women. Many women in our history were labeled as overreacting or hysterical or melancholic. Their issues were downplayed as not really being issues. Either that, or they were overplayed as being issues that needed an institution to fix them. Women are still told this today. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's offensive to be told that. Here's a little brief history for you. Freud considered hysteria a female disease, as did most leaders for more than 4,000 years of our history. It was attributed to either weak character, the scientific explanation, or the work of demons, the spiritual explanation. Hysteria was cured with herbs, sex, or sexual abstinence, who knew which one, or women deemed hysterical were burned to be purified, and many had their ovaries or sexual organs removed because hysteria was the result of a disturbance in the sexual organs, according to the men in charge. That is a wild legacy. Hysteria explained away behaviors and symptoms that made men uncomfortable. Hysterical women were, of course, dismissed. Some of the things that constituted hysteria were enjoying writing, PTSD symptoms, depression, an unwillingness or inability to have children, and of course, anything that might be considered different behavior. The first diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders in 1952 did not list hysteria as a mental illness. It was added in the second DSM in 1968. Guess what was happening then? So this condemnation of female behavior that is different from prescribed gender expectations, clearly didn't stop in the 19th century. Neither did the attempt to silence or discredit women by saying we were insane, crazy, out of our minds. The suffragists were labeled hysteric. A doctor once said, "There is mixed up with the women's movement much mental disorder." What was that? So this isn't so far in our past, and it still impacts women today. We get incorrect diagnoses and treatments. Most of us have experienced doctors who brush aside our symptoms and observations. Women who call men to account for their actions are practically ripped apart by lawyers and the public, so they appear unhinged and not in their right minds. Does anyone remember when Nancy Pelosi stood up to Donald Trump and he said, "There is something wrong with her upstairs"? Have you met yourself? He didn't stop there. Practically any time he talks about Nancy, he calls her crazy. It's a wild legacy, isn't it? So with all this baggage hanging over me, it's pretty easy to see why my husband and I have different feelings about that question on job applications. What will potential employers think if I check yes and I'm a woman? Is it better to hide or disclose? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is I don't want to be discredited for my mental health struggles or the way my brain works, or simply because I'm ambitious when I'm not supposed to be according to some secret rule of society. We still have a long way to go. I hope we're getting closer. Thanks for listening to my Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for videos about books and writing and more videos like this. See you next time.